This Voice of Global South Summit is a collective effort for gaining noble ideas for our collective futures. India's G20 presidency has tried to give a voice to the global South. सबका साथ की भावना से ही भारत ने प्रस्ताव रखा था कि अफ्रीकन यूनियन को G20 की स्थायी सदस्यता दी जाए। Enhance action on commitments under the UN Climate Convention and the Paris Agreement. This will be crucial in helping the global South fulfill its development aspirations in a climate-friendly way. I strongly believe that our collective responsibility not to let the sustainable development goals fall behind. We should find solutions to address the debt risks faced by many countries. We must find ways to build sustainable and inclusive food systems. Our vision of One Earth, One Health envisages good health for the entire ecosystem for humans, animals, plants, and the environment. When women prosper, the world prospers. Their leadership fosters inclusivity and their voices inspire positive change. We can advance financial inclusion and productivity through digital public infrastructure. Skilling, reskilling, and upskilling are the mantras for the future workforce. Respond to the priorities of the global South by framing an inclusive and balanced international agenda. The voice of the global South needs to set its own tone. Together, we need to escape the cycle of dependency on systems and circumstances which are not of our making.
Thank you for your participation to the event on India's semiconductor mission, developing ecosystem and supply chain today. 本日はインド半導体ミッション、エコシステムとサプライチェーンの発展にご参加いただきまして誠にありがとうございます。First, I would like to request His Excellency Mr. C.B. George, Ambassador of India to Japan, to make inaugural remarks. はじめに、駐日インド大使、シビ・ジョージ閣下より開会ご挨拶をいただきます。
Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Kazuya Nakajo, Executive Vice President of JETRO, Mr. Hidemichi Shimizu, Director, Semiconductor Division of METI, distinguished guests, Mr. Sagar Sharma from the Indian Semiconductor Mission, dear friends, good afternoon to all. I'm delighted to be part of this India Semiconductor Mission Developing Ecosystem and Supply Chain seminar being held today. Friends, India and Japan have a special strategic and global partnership rooted in shared values, mutual respect, and a common vision for a peaceful and prosperous future. Over the years, this partnership has grown exponentially. Today, our relationship covers a wide range of areas: trade and investment, industrial development, infrastructure, rail, metros, digital, energy, human resources, critical and emerging technology, climate change, health security, space, defense, and of course, semiconductors. A key aspect of our bilateral relationship is the economic cooperation. Japan being the fifth largest investor in India and has been a reliable partner in India's economic growth. The prime ministers of our two countries have set a target of 5 trillion yen in private investment and public financing from Japan to India over the next 5 years. And we are making remarkable progress towards achieving this. Though economic and commercial relationship between the two countries are on the rise, there is still untapped potential in our business relationship. India, with a population of 1.4 billion people, representing 1/6 of the world's population, having the largest and youngest working population across top economies globally, is one of the world's fastest growing economies. From the 10th position in 2014, India is now the fifth largest economy in the world and is going to be the third by 27-28. India has continuously improved its business environment through progressive policy reforms, streamlined regulations, and enhanced infrastructure. The Indian government is committed to further streamlining policies, reducing regulatory barriers, and fostering a business-friendly environment that encourages innovation, entrepreneurship, and investment. Dear friends, India's semiconductor industry is a pivotal component of its electronics landscape, with the demand surging to US dollars 34 billion in this financial year. Projections indicate a rise up to 110 billion US dollars by 2030, constituting 10% of the global semiconductor demand. In recent years, India has emerged as a hub for semiconductor manufacturing, design, and research. Remarkable strides have been made in the development of semiconductor ecosystem in India. India's semiconductor mission has been nurturing India's strategies for developing a robust and resilient semiconductor display ecosystem in India. The government's Semicon India program aims to provide attractive incentive support to companies investing in setting up semiconductor and display manufacturing facilities in India. The Make in India initiative of Government of India aims to boost manufacturing in India and establish the country as a global manufacturing hub. The government has introduced the design-linked incentive and other schemes such as CHIPS to startup and scheme for promotion of electronic components and semiconductors to support the industry. India hosts 20% of world's semiconductor design engineers and plans to train 85,000 engineers by 2027. AICTE has launched curriculum for semiconductor manufacturing specific courses to develop and nurture talent in the semiconductor industry, which is being adopted by leading engineering institutions of the country. We have a series of presentations and discussions set for today, so I would not like to go deep into the topic. Once again, I congratulate everyone for putting together this beautiful event today. Once again, thank you for joining us today. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you, sir. Next, we will have a video message from Mr. S. Krishnan, Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India。続きまして、インド電子情報技術省事務次官 S. クリシュナン様からのビデオメッセージをいただきましたので、上映いたします。スクリーンをご覧くださいませ。
Namaskar. Konnichiwa. Ambassador of India, Shri C.B. George, Embassy of India in Tokyo, senior officers from the Government of Japan, leaders of the electronic and semiconductor industry, investors, academicians, and friends. A very good afternoon to you all. India and Japan have had a long-standing history of collaboration in various fields. After a successful journey in the automotive industry, India and Japan signed a memorandum of cooperation on semiconductor supply chain partnership. The MoC aims to enhance bilateral collaboration on opportunities to advance a resilient semiconductor supply chain and leverage complementary strengths. India-Japan Competitiveness Partnership and India-Japan Digital Partnership are amongst the key initiatives for bolstering cooperation between the two countries. India is ready to put itself on the global semiconductor map. In furtherance of the vision of a self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, under the visionary leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister, the Government of India has approved an incentive program of $10 billion for the development of a sustainable semiconductor and display manufacturing ecosystem in the country. The program aims to provide an attractive incentive support to companies investing to establish semiconductor and display manufacturing facilities in India. This will pave the way for India's technological leadership in these areas of strategic importance and economic self-reliance. With the approval accorded to the Micron Technologies Incorporated of United States to construct a $2.7 billion semiconductor packaging factory, India has marked the beginning of a large-scale semiconductor manufacturing journey. India is offering incentives to the tune of 70% of the project cost for establishing semiconductor and display fabs in the country. The incentives to the tune of 70% of the capital expenditure are also available for establishing assembly, testing, marking, and packaging, ATMP facilities for semiconductors and fabs for compound semiconductors and discrete semiconductors. Government of India is offering its incentives on a pari passu mode. That means that it will co-invest with the semiconductor companies without actually owning any equity. The Government of India is not only addressing the financial viability of semiconductor and display manufacturing in India through the incentives, but is also addressing it on an ecosystem approach, which will encourage and enable domestic companies to participate in establishing the supply chain of the semiconductor ecosystem. We have identified world-class talent development as an important requirement of this ecosystem and have initiated a number of skilling and academic initiatives to ensure the development of the required capacities and capabilities amongst young Indians aiming for careers and opportunities in the electronics and semiconductor sectors. Japan has a long history of technological innovation in the semiconductor field. Japan is home to a strong ecosystem of semiconductor raw materials and inputs like semiconductor wafers, chemicals, gases, and also of semiconductor equipment. India, on the other hand, has a strong ecosystem for semiconductor design with a growing talent pool. Both the nations can fortify their bilateral cooperation in the semiconductor space by benefiting from each other's unique complementary strengths. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome more Japanese companies to India to establish or even expand their manufacturing operations in the country. I would appeal to them to evaluate the Semicon India program and to reach out to any of us for any further support that they need for their investment plans in India. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad. Arigato gozaimasu.
Next, I would like to request Mr. Kazuya Nakajo, Executive Vice President, JETRO, to make remarks. 続きまして、JETRO理事、中条和也様よりご挨拶いただきます。
皆さん、こんにちは。ジェトロで、インドを担当しております、中条と申します。よろしくお願いいたします。His Excellency Mr. Shibi George, Ambassador of India to Japan, Mr. S. Krishnan on the video, Secretary, Ministry of Electronics, Information Tech, Government of India, Mr. Sagar Sharma, Chief of Staff, Indian Semiconductor Mission, and Shimizu Hidemichi, Sama, Director, Semiconductor Division, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, Government of Japan. And ladies and gentlemen, 皆様こんにちは。今日はですね、この、セミナーにあたってですね、一言ご挨拶を申し上げたいと思います。もう本当にご承知の通り、世界のサプライチェーン、半導体のサプライチェーンが非常に大きな形で変容しつつある中でですね、インドの位置づけというのがだいぶこの注目をされるようになってまいりました。これは一人にそのインドの消費市場がものすごい勢いで伸びています。で、特に自動車であるとかですね、それから電子機器、スマートフォンのようなですね、ものがどんどん売れるようになってきて、自動車で言えば今300万台、近々500万台と言われてますし、インドの人口に比べてもですね、スマートフォンの普及台数っていうのはまだ 20% とか 30% というような状況ですので、これからその半導体が必要なものがどんどん売れていくというような状況になっているわけであります。それからもう一つはですね、インドが、昨年アメリカと半導体の協定を結びました。そして日本も経済産業省さんがですね、西村大臣が現地に赴く際にですね、先ほどのビデオでも話がありましたけれども、半導体の協定を結んでおります。つまり、インドはもうこちら側の陣営でですね、半導体のサプライチェーンに入るというようなことになってくるんだろうという、こういう時代なんじゃないかと思っています。こうした中でですね、インド政府も、今までこの電子デバイスについてはですね、このフルセットでいろいろあるインドであっても、このデバイスの世界ではなぜかあまり国内の産業が発達しておらずですね、かなりの量を輸入に頼っている。こういうような状況を打破するために、非常に強いインセンティブを出しております。半導体についてはですね、半導体ミッション、今日も代表の方見えておりますが、これを立ち上げてですね、非常に大きなインセンティブのコミットメントをされております。総額で言うと、1兆1400億円という金額でございますし、これは日本よりさらに大きな金額を準備をされている。それから、特筆すべきはですね、インドの歴史の中で、こういう形でキャピタルインセンティブっていうのを出した例ってほとんどなくてですね、これはごめんなさい、地方政府では出してるんですけれども、中央の政府がこういった形でコミットをしているというのは、極めて、なんていうエポックメイキングなことであります。それだけインドの政府は本気で、そういった企業の誘致をしようというようなことになっているんだと思います。 こうした動きにこうしてですね、先ほども次官の挨拶にもございましたけれども、マイクロンさんが進出をコミットされています。難度とメモリということで、あったと思います。それで、これからですね、生産、こういった半導体の生産の動きというものがですね、これから、少しずつ動き出してくるというような状況にございます。で、日本の企業さんもですね、ここには高い関心を持っておられまして、つい、先月ですけれども、インドのグジャラート州にあるドレラ特別地域というの、ここは半導体のハブにしていこうというような地域なんですけれども、大きな工業団地でございます。こちらにですね、日本の企業にお声掛けしたところ、40社60名の方にご参加いただきました。これ、ジェトロと JBIC でお声掛けして集めたんですけれども、こんなような形でですね、日本の企業さんの関心も高いということでございます。日本は、ファンドリーこそ、それほどあれですけれども、その関連産業というのは非常に世界一の関連産業、製造装置、材料、その他の集積がございますし、十分これからインドの半導体生産にはご支援をしていくことができると思いますし、インドは逆にですね、このソフトウェアというか、そのチップデザインでは世界の20% を占めているというような話でございますので、ここのうまいシナジーがですね、発揮できるんじゃないかということで、二国間の非常に大きな協力の柱になりつつあるということでございます。で、テトラにおいてもですね、これからもですね、こういったミッションであるとか、いろんな形でのその企画をどんどん立てていこうと思います。これには皆様方からですね、いろいろお声をいただいて、ご相談をいただいて、ご要望いただいてっていうことが、ベースになっておりますので、ぜひぜひ、私どもですね、お声掛けをいただければと思います。で、最後に、ぜひこのインドの政府の方にも、ご理解いただきたい点がございまして、これやはりその製造っていうのはなかなか急ぐ飛びにいかないということであります。まずは反社を作って、いろんなマーケティングの調査をしたりとか、顧客ベースを作ったり、エンジニアリングのオフィスを作ったりっていう、段階的に何年かかけて作っていくものなので、すぐに工場っていうわけにはなかなかいかないという点を、まずご理解をいただく上でですね、そのステップ1、ステップ2のここの部分においてもですね、ぜひ、インド政府のご理解とですね、ご支援をいただければというふうに考えております。なかなか日本にとって、確かにその馴染みが、皆さんにとって馴染みがある国ではございませんので、インド政府の方々がですね、こうした日本企業のそのご努力というか、この挑戦にですね、レッドカーペットを引いてですね、ご対応いただければ、本当に幸せに思うところであります。といったことで、両国のこういった部分での協力がですね、進展することを記念いたしまして、私のご挨拶をさせていただきます。ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。Next, I would like to request Mr. Hidemichi Shimizu, Director, Semiconductor Division, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, to make remarks. 続きまして、経済産業省デバイス半導体戦略室長、清水秀道様よりご挨拶をいただきます。
Hi, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Ambassador, and thank you very much for everybody and hosting this marvelous event. I am honored to be here, and I thank you very much for giving me a precious opportunity to explain our policy prospect and the opportunity for the further collaboration between Japan and India. So I'd like to, as everybody already mentioned, Japan and India has signed the MOC this July. The highlight is the finding the area for the focusing on the further collaboration. And yes, that means that we are set for further deepening our collaboration more and more. So we have already talked about, we have already had a bilateral dialogue, government to government. And we talked further area, the focusing area for collaboration and possible like the formulating, for example, business mission to India and so on. So this event is about developing the ecosystem and the supply chain. We believe that the diversification is very important for developing the ecosystem and also the supply chain. So not only advanced logic semiconductors, but also so-called legacy semiconductors. We see also like the equipments, various equipments and materials. Or in upstream, you can see the critical minerals, or in downstream, you can see like the IP business, IP vending, or chip designing, and so on. So no single country can provide everything by itself. So diversification is very important, we believe. And we see lots of opportunities in the collaboration between Japan and India, not only for Japanese side, not only as a market, but also for R&D and further. So I'd like to quickly go over the semiconductor Japanese policy prospects in order to hoping that understanding our strategy of semiconductor policy is useful for everybody to further deepening the collaboration between two countries. So next slide, please. So this diagram is about how important semiconductor is for everything. So at the bottom, the semiconductor is there. So that is like the basis for digital infrastructure and digital industry and everything, all the industries. So we sometimes call semiconductor like the rice of all industries. Sometimes, as you know, the rice is our staple. But anyway, next slide, please. So this is the MOCs we have had, Japanese government have with the other governments. On top is the MOC between Japan and India, highlighting as everybody, as some Nakajo-san actually already explained, but the highlight is the considering the enhancing the semiconductor supply resilience and also promoting the talent and workforce development and exploring the area mutually beneficial R&D collaboration and promoting intellectual property, property protection. We also have the MOC with the US, EU, UK, and Holland. And the MOC with India is the newest. Next slide, please. So this is about the first policy diagram the dialogue we have had already last month. So from our side, DG Nohara from METI has attended, and from India, METI, Mr. S. Krishnan has attended. And from Japanese companies, Canon, Rapidus, Renesas, and Resonac has attended. And from India side, Tata, JSW, Reliance, and Murugappa, and so on. Next slide, please. So this is about our policy vision. So our policy vision for semiconductor consists of 3 steps. The first step is about the strengthening our production capacity, and not only for the advanced semiconductors like the advanced logic and memory, but also the so-called legacy and equipment and materials. And second step on the bottom left is about the R&D for the next generation semiconductor. The most famous project is Rapidus project. For first step, the step 1, the most famous project is TSMC in Kumamoto, by the way. And third step, this is about the R&D for further future, like photonics, electronics, convergence, which is conducted by, for example, NTT, and also quantum computing in collaboration with IBM and so on. So these three steps we are actually working on at the same time, but the third step and second step takes time. So now we are especially focusing on the step one, but gradually the fruit from the step 2 and 3 is coming. Okay, next step, next slide, please. So this is about our support for the advanced semiconductors. We have decided our support, governmental support to TSMC, Kioxia, and Micron. Next slide. These are the companies we have decided to support for the legacy chips and equipment and so on. So Renesas, Canon, Samco, Resonac, Sumitomo, Evident, Shidco, and so on. Next slide. So this is about the R&D project for the next generation semiconductor, mostly by Rapidus. So Rapidus is now working on the technology for mass production of a 2-nanometer logic semiconductor using GAFET technology in collaboration with IBM. Next slide, please. So Rapidus is in collaboration with many other entities, such as IMEC and ASML in Europe, and IBM and NSTC in the United States. We also have the collaborative MOC with Fraunhofer, Leti, and the Competence Center in Holland. Next slide, please. So this is about this is about the Rapidus again. So Rapidus is supported by or invested by the Japanese major customer companies for the semiconductors, such as Kioxia, Sony, Denso, SoftBank, and Toyota, NEC, NTT, and so on. Next slide, please. So we have already decided, the Japanese government have already put 330 billion yen for their R&D project, and we will continue up till they succeed in the mass production of the 2-nanometer logic semiconductor. And they plan to sell the 2-nanometer logic chip in 2027. So next slide, please. In parallel with the Rapidus, we also established the governmental entity for the expecting that to be the headquarters of R&D project regarding the 2-nanometer and beyond 2-nanometer technologies. So this is the list of the members. Next slide, please. And also, we are working on the development of the human resource, because we are revitalizing the semiconductor industry very rapidly. Many companies and many factories or many areas of Japan were in short of the human resource right now. So we are in collaboration with the universities and high schools and so on. We are now trying to increase the human resource capacity. Next slide, please. And this is the focus area of our policy regarding the human resource development. So so far we have focused on the inviting companies like TSMC to Japan to increase the production capacity of the logic semiconductors and memory semiconductor. But also we are now focusing on the development of the chip design. and the human resource for chip designing. So now, in collaboration with Tokyo University, we have created a program for developing the human resource for the chip designing. But we would like to also create new programs for like the joint program or the internship program for the chip designing human resource development. So next slide, what is next slide? Okay. So I stop here. So this is the overview of the Japanese semiconductor policy. But thank you very much. And please contact us if there is anything, any idea or any area of possible collaboration between Japan and India. And if there's any question, please contact us. You will be very welcomed. And thank you very much for this precious opportunity. And congratulations for the success of this event. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。Next, we will show you a video on India Semiconductor Mission. 続きまして、インド半導体ミッションのビデオを上映いたします。スクリーンをご覧くださいませ。
How do you become the world's largest manufacturing hub? By creating the necessary policy environment? By building a robust digital infrastructure? More than 820 million internet users. By paving the path for the next wave of technological revolution. By nurturing the world's fastest growing startup ecosystem. All this and more. Welcome to New India. That is rapidly moving towards becoming the world's largest manufacturing hub. Truly following the spirit of cooperation in a fragmented world, the Government of India's mantra, Make in India for the world, is creating a conducive environment and framework to establish India as a resilient global electronics and semiconductor supply chain partner. Semiconductors play a vital role in our world today in more ways than one can imagine. And India is where the new gen of semiconductor space is fast taking shape. India's electronics manufacturing has leapt from $29 billion in 2014-15 to $87 billion in 2021-22. By 2025-26, it is expected to exceed $300 billion. Electronics rapid growth will continue due to production-linked incentive and other schemes, with semiconductor industry demand increasing to $110 billion by 2030. Under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, India has taken a giant stride towards meeting this goal with the launch of the Semicon India program, a visionary scheme with an outlay of approximately $10 billion for the development of the semiconductors and display manufacturing ecosystem in the country. Laying the foundation of a robust and sustainable semiconductor manufacturing ecosystem, the program will provide fiscal support of 50% on pari passu basis by central government. That is, Government of India will match the investment at every stage. Further, additional support of up to 20 to 25% will be provided by the state government in establishing semiconductor fabs, display fabs, compound semiconductor fabs, ATMP OSAT facilities, and discrete semiconductor device manufacturing in India, together with a three-tier financial support for promoting design-linked incentives in the form of infrastructure support, product design, development, and deployment. While the world asks how India will deliver, we are well on the way to transforming the dream into reality. India is home to an exceptional semiconductor design talent pool, which makes up 20% of the world's semiconductor design engineers. Nearly all the top 10 semiconductor design companies have their design or R&D centers in India. The program also targets 85,000 skilled workforces specialized in semiconductor design and manufacturing by 2026. Additionally, it will aim to modernize and commercialize the Semiconductor Laboratory (SCL) at Mohali in Punjab by exploring a joint venture with a commercial fab partner. Since 2014, the Narendra Modi-led government has transformed India's mobile manufacturing ecosystem from import substitution to export-led growth. Today, India is the world's second-largest mobile handset manufacturer, and its domestic manufacturing meets more than 95% of the domestic demand. The export of mobile handsets increased twofold within 1 year to approximately $5.5 billion in 2022. The government is also supporting the development of electronic manufacturing, high-tech clusters, and common facility centers, such as the exclusive Semicon city in Dholera, Gujarat, with a land availability of 10,000 acres and more, with quality water and power supplies. At a time when humanity was stuck in the pincer of the worst-known pandemic in over a century, India took care of its health and economy and provided for the world. India dreams big and delivers bigger. As it enters its Amrit Kal, the golden period, its aim for 2047, when it completes 100 years of independence, propels it forward. Inspired by Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future. As India takes over the presidency of G20, India is committed to being a trusted partner for a diversified and resilient semiconductor supply chain. Come, be a part of the mega electronics revolution in India and explore colossal growth potential to thrive.
Next, I would like to request Mr. Sagar Sharma, Chief of Staff, India Semiconductor Mission, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, to make a presentation. 続きまして、インド電子情報技術省、インド半導体ミッションチーフスタッフ、サーガル・シャルマ様よりもご講演いただきます。
His Excellency Ambassador of India to Japan, T.B. George Sir, and all the present dignitaries and leaders of the industry. Good evening, and I'm very excited to share the India semiconductor policies and vision to all of you. Next slide, please. So I'll just give you a macro perspective of the Indian economy, how it is growing. So we see we'll be the third largest economy by 2030. And this growth, digital revolution is fundamental to this growth, where we are adopting digital technologies like never before. A population of more than 1.4 billion people, out of which more than 65% are less than 35 years of age. It creates a massive economic demand, considering how the digital technologies are touching every space of our life. So it in itself is creating a huge economic demand around it. And if we see, with the deep internet penetration in India, where the per GB cost is less than 18 Japanese yen. So the internet has become so accessible to every nook and corner of the country. And we have made in the October, we have made more than 11 billion transactions worth more than $200 billion using our unified payment interface. It shows that how the digital revolution is fundamental to this growth. On the one hand, we have created a 6G alliance. Our 4G penetration is more than 99% today. So with this digital infrastructure, we understand that as the speakers before me shared, the trusted and the resiliency of that digital infrastructure is the key. We have developed the India stack, and we understand that we need to make it trusted and resilient. And for any digital infrastructure, like in the earlier industrial revolution, steel was fundamental in the same way for the digital revolution, electronics and semiconductors are fundamental. So when it comes to electronics, next slide, please. When it comes to electronics, we are growing at a very healthy CAGR of around 17 and 18% from around $29 billion in 2015 to $103 billion today. We have come a long way, and we'll be at 300 billion electronic manufacturing by 2030. Next slide. So a case in point is the mobile manufacturing. So mobile manufacturing has grown by a factor of 19x in these years, from around $2.3 billion to around $45 billion, and our exports have risen from around $0.2 billion to $45 billion in these years, with a massive X factor. Next slide, please. So I'll tell you, how it is happening in India. It is happening because of a pro-industry, pro-growth, and an outlook and a whole of government approach to enable the industry for all these important areas. So we have, when the world was under the global pandemic in 2020, we came out with this production link incentive schemes, wherein the various companies getting incentivized based on their incremental production. And that's how the Foxcons, the Pegatrons, the Westrons of the world started scaling their manufacturing in India, and the rest, and the earlier figures showed to you. So we have the huge 22 billion outlay across the electronics and allied areas, be it mobile manufacturing, component ecosystem, automobile, advanced chemistry cell, telecom, solar PV modules, white good, etc. And many of the Japanese companies are also getting benefited because of these schemes. Next slide, please. So just to show you the winner companies under the PLI schemes, we have Foxconn, Pegatron, Wistron, etc. For the component ecosystem, we have TDK also from Japan, which got benefited because of the production link incentive schemes of the government of India. Next slide, please. Similarly, we have a production link incentive scheme for the IT hardware segment, where the companies got incentivized for the segment like servers, laptops, PCs, and all-in-ones now in the PLI 2.0 also. Next slide, please. Now, just to give you the history of the semiconductor ecosystem development in India. So it goes back to 1980s, when TSMC was getting a shape, and when the Japanese industry was also very strong, around semiconductors and electronics. So we had the semiconductor laboratory in Mohali, which started in 1983. And then Texas Instruments started a design facility in Bangalore in 1985. So now today we house 20% of the global semiconductor R&D engineering workforce of the world. All the top semiconductor companies are having their largest design center outside of their domestic territory. Then the next destination is India. So be it the applied materials of the world, the lamps, the KLAs of the world. So today, for just to give you some figures, applied materials, 25% of their global R&D workforce is based out of India, and that number is around 10% for LAM and around 6% for KLA. Similarly, Intel, Qualcomm, AMD, NXP, you name it, and all the big design houses are doing cutting edge semiconductor design in India, and all the ADA, including ARM, is doing the R&D in India. We have some presence of fab consumables and other entities in terms of Inox product, Linde, etc. also in India. So they are moving to the semiconductor grade now. Next slide, please. So we will be USD 110 billion by 2030, powered by our AI, the hardware segment, and we already are a software powerhouse. So, and given support which Government of India is putting, we are quite sure that we will definitely achieve this target. Next slide, please. So this is another example that how we are supporting the semiconductor manufacturing and display manufacturing ecosystem. Government of India is giving upfront incentives. This is the first time, possibly first time in the history, that this kind of incentives are being offered on the upfront basis to any company for semiconductor manufacturing. So we have sectors, front-end fabs, OSAT, ATMP, compound semiconductors, silicon photonics, discrete manufacturing. So all those sectors are being supported by the Government of India. So there is 50% component which the India Semiconductor Mission, which is basically the central government, will give to different companies on upfront basis. Then the another component, which is at least, because based on our interaction with various local state governments, it is at least 20%, but it can be 25% till 25% depending on the state government which a particular company chooses. So there are some states which are giving these incentives on pari passu or upfront basis, and there are some states which are giving it on reimbursement basis. So an investor essentially has to bring maximum 30%. The rest support is from the government in India. Next slide, please. So a case in point is the investment of Micron. So I'm very happy to share that we gave approval to Micron on basically the last week of June. Within 3 months, Micron broke the ground in Sanand, Gujarat, and the construction is going in full-fledged manner. And we are expecting the product within next calendar year. So Micron will be supported 50% from the Government of India side and 20% from the state government. The total project cost is around $2.75 billion. They will be doing DDR4, 5, 6 in India, including wire bonding, post wafer finish, direct chip attach, all kind of advanced technology, wherein the lithography components also comes into picture. So next slide, please. Now, fiscal incentive is one part of this entire support system. Apart from the non-fiscal support, which, like for example, the creation of the India Semiconductor Mission as the nodal entity to support this investment and to handhold, like we handhold in Micron from day zero, and we just to give you some numbers, we signed the advanced pricing agreement, which typically takes around 3 years globally, with Micron in less than 6 months. This is unprecedented. And we don't have any other example where the advanced pricing agreement was signed in such fast pace, time duration. So the other very important pillar of a strong semiconductor ecosystem is the talent pipeline. We are the youngest nation on the planet today, and I think will remain so till 2070. Our median is around 29 years. We are more than 8 million science and tech graduates pipeline coming out of our colleges. I think we consider that. And when we talk about, so basically, I'll go to the philosophy of our program, which is written in the standees also. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future. So I'll take back you to 2019 when we were making these presentations to the leadership. And when our leaders got to know that more than 92% most advanced chips are coming from a small geography, we were really worried. Not only about us, but for the entire world, because semiconductors are so critical. We start our days from semiconductors when our alarm rings. We spend and interact with semiconductors so many times during the day, and even when we sleep, semiconductors monitors us these days. They're so critical to our lifestyle. So we cannot have a precarious situation where it is coming from a small geography. So this incentive package is our effort to make our future, and our family more stronger and healthier. So similarly, when it comes to the talent ecosystem, we are committed to have with the like-minded countries an ecosystem to support each other in that respect also. Next slide, please. Now, apart from the front end, the segments which we covered, we also have other to support the gases, chemicals, equipment, likes of JSR, Advantest, Discos of the world. You guys can get benefited through our specs program, where we are giving 25% of the capex incentive to different companies. Next slide, please. So I'll also give you one example that how the fundamental requirement for any semiconductor ecosystem, you say power and water, and green power is something which I think we are really proud of. More than 43% of our installed capacity is from non-fossil fuel based sources. So we have a very strong ecosystem that way of green power, and the focus of our Prime Minister and the entire leadership is to enable the sustainable goals, and we are quite committed to that. And there is no issue when it comes to the quality power and water. One case in point is the example of Semiconductor Laboratory, which is running since 1983, and there is not a single incidence of power outage till date. And they have maintained the semi standards, and they are running their facilities and doing the today they are doing at 180 nanometer all their manufacturing. Next slide, please. So Gujarat government has come out with a semicon city in Dholera, where because the requirements for the semiconductor cluster is, airport should be in vicinity. So the airport is coming up, high-speed train connection from Ahmedabad. There is 5 gigawatt of solar power plant is already under, it's under construction, out of which 300 megawatt is already commissioned. There are 4 ports within the vicinity of 300 kilometer of the site. And there are 2 companies which are already allocated, their land share there in Dholera. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, we worry about our family. The entire earth is the family, and we want a good future for all of us. So we have signed various memorandum of understanding and cooperation with the like-minded countries, and Japan is an integral partner to that. And we are, as our Prime Minister said, that the India-Japan coordination and cooperation is indispensable for a good future. So we are very committed. We understand the the interest of the Japanese partners. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have any queries, any questions, and we'll be very, very happy to facilitate you, because we know that your success is our success. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We will now conclude the event on India Semiconductor Mission, Developing Ecosystem and Supply Chains today. Thank you very much for your participation. 以上をもちまして、本日のイベント、インド半導体ミッションエコシステムとサプライチェーンの発展を終了とさせていただきます。ご来場いただきましてありがとうございました。We will have a networking session with refreshment at the reception area of the embassy site. We hope you will join us. この後、軽食付きのネットワーキングセッションをこの会場を出て左側の大使館側の待合エリアで行いますので、皆様ぜひご参加くださいませ。If you use